Do you ever find yourself in that moment where everything goes quiet and you're wondering, is he about to kiss me? Your heart's racing, your mind's spinning, but you're not sure if you're imagining the tension or if he's feeling it too. The truth is, most guys won't come right out and say, I want to kiss you. But if you know what to look for, his body, his voice, and his energy will tell you everything you need to know. When you're with someone and trying to figure out if he's thinking about kissing you, the very first and often most overlooked sign is how close he gets to you. And I'm not talking about just physically standing next to you. I'm talking about the intentional closeness that comes from attraction, curiosity, and a desire to connect on a deeper level. When a man is interested in kissing you, he often starts by invading your personal space, but in a way that feels gentle, subtle, and kind of electric. It's like his body language starts whispering something before he ever says a word. Think about how people naturally keep a distance from each other in everyday situations. We all have an invisible comfort bubble, and we're careful not to burst someone else's unless we know them well or we feel really comfortable. But when a guy is into you, he will start to slowly test those boundaries. Maybe it begins while you're sitting next to each other. He starts off with a reasonable gap, but over time that gap begins to close. You're in the middle of a story and you notice he leans in just a little more. You make a joke and suddenly he's closer, laughing along with you. He's finding every excuse to narrow that space because proximity increases intimacy, and intimacy often leads to a kiss. It's not just about being close, it's about being closer than he needs to be. There's a difference. Let's say you're at a restaurant. You're both across the table from each other, but he's leaning on his elbows, shoulders inching forward, hanging on to every word you say. He could sit back. There's room. But he doesn't. He wants to be in your energy. He wants to feel the spark between you more intensely. And sometimes it's even unconscious. He's not sitting there thinking, let me scoot in to seem interested. It's his instincts moving him forward. His body is chasing that connection. His heart and head are craving. This also shows up in casual movements. For instance, you might be walking together and he slows his pace to stay close beside you. Or if you're standing in a group, he ends up standing closer to you than he does to anyone else. Not in a way that feels too much, but just enough to make you feel like he's tuned in to you specifically. These little behaviors are clues. His body language is speaking, even if he hasn't said a thing out loud. Another example, if you're sitting on a couch together and you feel his knee start to point towards you, or maybe his leg brushes up against yours and he doesn't immediately move it away, that's his way of easing into your space. He's trying to test the water, seeing how it feels to be near you and checking if you're okay with it. If you don't flinch or pull back, that encourages him even more. He'll take that as a green light to move just a bit closer the next time. It's all about those micro adjustments he makes. He leans in when you speak, even when he can hear you just fine. His arm reaches over you instead of around when grabbing something nearby, brushing lightly against your shoulder. Maybe his hand rests on the table close to yours, not touching, but definitely inviting. He's not just near you, he's creating a kind of magnetic pull between you two, building an invisible tension that says, I want to be closer. And more often than not, that tension is the runway to a kiss. What makes this so powerful is how quiet it is. There are no big declarations, no dramatic gestures. Just a guy inching closer and closer, hoping you'll feel what he's feeling, hoping you'll sense the moment that's building between you. And if you're paying attention, you'll see it before it even happens. You'll see it in the space that slowly disappears. The way his presence begins to feel like gravity pulling you in. And that right there is the first and clearest sign that he wants to kiss you. Eye contact is one of the most powerful forms of nonverbal communication, and when it comes to attraction, especially the kind that leads to a kiss, it becomes even more revealing. When a man is thinking about kissing you, his eyes will almost always give it away before anything else does. It's not about staring or making it obvious. It's in the subtle, lingering moments, the kind of eye contact that lasts just a second too long, that feels a little heavier, a little more charged, and a lot more personal. Think about a time when you were sitting with someone and the conversation took a slight pause. Not awkward, just natural. And you noticed he was still looking at you. Not just politely, not distracted or darting around the room, but fully focused on you. That's a sign. When a guy holds your gaze like that, he's emotionally present in that moment with you. He's not looking for the next thing to say or the nearest exit. He's looking at you. He's tuned in, curious, and likely debating whether the moment is right to lean in for that kiss. The eyes can also reflect desire in a very subtle way. It's in the way he shifts his focus, especially if he starts glancing down at your lips. That's a big one. A guy doesn't need to say, "I want to kiss you," when his eyes are already making that statement for him. That back and forth glance between your eyes and your mouth is almost involuntary. He might not even realize he's doing it. It's his brain processing the attraction in real time. And when that happens repeatedly, when you catch him checking out your lips in the middle of a conversation, it's usually because he's wondering what it would be like to kiss them. There's also a certain softness that comes into a man's eyes when he's feeling connected and drawn to you in that romantic way. It's like the guard drops a little. The playful or confident energy he might have been carrying earlier starts to shift into something more intimate. He's not just trying to impress you anymore. He's trying to connect. His eyes might relax, his brow might soften, and what you see is a kind of openness, a vulnerability. That softness often appears right before a kiss, because that's the moment when he's emotionally naked, hoping you feel the same thing he does. Sometimes you'll also notice a kind of stillness in his gaze, like the world around you two fades out for just a few seconds. You could be in a noisy room, a crowded place, but for that one instant, it feels like it's just the two of you. That's the power of meaningful eye contact. It creates a pocket of intimacy without anyone else even noticing. And that's often the space where a kiss is born. It's not in the loud moments. It's not in the flirty jokes or casual chats. It's in that pause, that silence, that locked eye contact, where you both feel something shift. It's also worth paying attention to how his eye contact changes throughout the interaction. At the start, it might be more casual or even playful, but as the connection builds, it often becomes more focused, more deliberate. If he starts leaning in while looking into your eyes, if his voice lowers slightly, and you notice his gaze settling on your lips every now and then, all of that builds up to a kiss without a word being spoken. The eyes are not just observing, they're inviting. They're asking a question he might not have the courage to say out loud yet. The difference between a guy who's just being friendly and one who's thinking about kissing you often comes down to the quality of that eye contact. Friendly eye contact feels light and brief. Romantic eye contact feels weighted. It lingers, it draws you in, it holds you there, and the closer you are physically, the more intense that connection can feel. His eyes are looking for permission, for response, for alignment. He's not just looking at you, he's looking into you. And that moment, that deep, unspoken communication, is often where the kiss begins, long before lips ever meet. There's something subtle and almost primal that happens when a man starts feeling that magnetic pull toward you. His voice changes, not dramatically, not like he's suddenly putting on a different persona, but it shifts just enough to tell you that something deeper is happening. When a guy is thinking about kissing you, you'll notice a softness in how he speaks, a slight drop in his tone, a slower pace to his words. It's as if his entire focus is narrowing in on you, and everything he says becomes more intentional, more intimate, more connected. You might hear it when you're mid-conversation and things begin to move from light-hearted banter into something that feels more personal. He might be telling you a story, and then suddenly his voice lowers, almost like he's letting you into something private. He's not trying to be louder or more animated anymore. He's trying to pull you in. That softness, that drop in volume, isn't a coincidence. It's a sign that he's becoming emotionally engaged in a way that often precedes physical closeness. What's really interesting is that this vocal shift usually isn't calculated. It's not something most men consciously do. It's more instinctual. When someone feels attracted, when there's tension building and their mind starts entertaining the thought of kissing you, they become more present. And when a man becomes more present, his energy naturally quiets down. His voice follows that emotional shift. Instead of trying to impress or entertain, he begins to speak like he's already connected to you, as if there's a shared energy you're both quietly acknowledging. Another thing that often happens is the way he starts timing his words with your reactions. His rhythm adjusts. He waits for your facial expressions. He might pause more between sentences. Why? Because he's not just talking anymore. He's feeling the moment. He's listening more, watching you closely, trying to read whether you're feeling the same spark he is. His speech becomes slower, not because he's unsure, but because he's savoring the moment, testing the waters, stretching time in a way that feels emotionally rich and physically charged. You may also notice that the topics of conversation start shifting. At the beginning of the night, maybe he was talking about work or the latest movie he saw, but as the chemistry builds and his voice begins to change, the things he says take on a more personal tone. He might start asking you deeper questions or making subtle compliments, not loud or showy, but soft and meaningful. He could say something like, "You have a really calming energy," or "I feel really good talking to you." Those aren't just comments. That's him revealing where his head is going. It's a warm-up for vulnerability, and vulnerability is the emotional doorway to physical closeness, especially a kiss. There's also a kind of nervous energy that can creep in here. Not the kind that makes him jittery or awkward, but the kind that makes his words feel slightly more delicate, slightly more unsure, like he's choosing them carefully. You'll hear it if he suddenly slows down or his voice gets quieter right when you're both sharing a moment. That slight hesitation isn't about fear, it's about hope. He's wondering if the moment is mutual. He's wondering if now is the right time. He's imagining the kiss, even if he hasn't made the move yet. And his voice becomes a bridge between that thought and action. Sometimes you'll notice that even in silence, his presence still feels loud. When the talking stops and he doesn't rush to fill the space, when his body turns toward you and his voice drops just before the pause, that's not random. That's deliberate. That's the space where feelings speak louder than words. He's inviting something deeper. He's inviting the next move. A man's voice in these moments becomes more than sound. It becomes a signal, a low, steady hum of desire that wraps itself around every word. If you're tuned in, if you're really listening, you'll hear it. And that quiet, steady shift in how he speaks is often the most honest, most revealing clue that he's thinking about kissing you. Touch is one of the most instinctive and telling ways a person communicates interest. And when a man is thinking about kissing you, his touch tends to shift in a very specific way. It moves from casual and friendly to more deliberate and intimate. He starts small, testing the waters, gauging your comfort level with physical closeness. He doesn't go straight in for the dramatic romantic gesture. Instead, he eases into it, gradually building tension through subtle, thoughtful touch that feels both innocent and intentional. You might notice it in the way he lightly brushes your hand when you're sitting next to each other. Maybe he touches your arm when he laughs, or his fingers linger just a bit longer when he hands you something. These are the quiet, in-between moments that say more than words ever could. They're not random. They're a form of communication. He's saying, "I want to be closer to you. Do you feel the same?" He's reading your reaction. If you pull back, he'll likely take a step back too. But if you stay relaxed or even move slightly closer, it tells him he's welcome in your space, and that encourages him to continue. This kind of touch is never just about the contact itself. It's about the space it creates. It's about how it makes both of you feel when he places his hand on your back while guiding you through a crowd, when he lets his knee rest gently against yours instead of pulling away. These are signals. He's making it clear in the most non-verbal way possible that he's comfortable being close to you and hopes you're comfortable being close to him. And what often happens next is that the touches become more frequent, more noticeable, yet still tender and respectful. You may notice that he starts mirroring your movements too. If you shift slightly in your seat, he might unconsciously do the same. If you brush your hair behind your ear, he might mirror that movement with his own version of a gentle touch, like adjusting his sleeve or running a hand through his hair. These small, synchronized gestures aren't coincidences. They're reflections of attraction. His body is slowly aligning with yours, and that alignment builds the kind of connection that often leads to a kiss. Sometimes it's not even the touch itself, but the anticipation of it that becomes electric. Imagine you're standing close and he lifts his hand as if he's about to touch your face or brush something from your shoulder, and then pauses. That half-second hesitation, that should I or shouldn't I moment, is charged with energy. He's not just thinking about physical contact anymore. He's thinking about what comes after. He's asking himself, is this the moment? Does she feel what I feel? That pause speaks volumes. It's a quiet space filled with possibility, and your reaction often becomes the deciding factor. Another layer of this is the way his touch escalates subtly over time. What started as a brief touch on the arm might evolve into his hand resting lightly on your lower back, or his fingers grazing yours a little more deliberately. He's not trying to rush, he's trying to build a rhythm between the two of you, and that rhythm creates intimacy. He's following your cues, checking for green lights, and when he feels enough of them, that's when the idea of kissing becomes not just possible, but almost inevitable. There's also an emotional layer to the way he touches you. It's not always flirtatious. Sometimes it's protective or reassuring. A hand on your shoulder when you're telling a vulnerable story, a light squeeze of your hand when something funny or intense happens. That kind of physical reassurance says, I'm here, I feel close to you. And that emotional closeness can be just as important as physical closeness when it comes to deciding whether a kiss is on the horizon. Touch, when done right, is like a conversation happening beneath the surface. It's slow, it's careful, and it's full of meaning. It's his way of saying things he might not have the words for yet. And when his touches grow warmer, more frequent, more emotionally tuned in, they usually lead to one thing. He's thinking about kissing you, and he's waiting for the moment, when everything feels just right. When a man is thinking about kissing you, one of the clearest signs, though often the most subtle, is in the way he lingers. It's not about what he says, or even what he does with his hands or eyes. It's about the moment when he doesn't leave, when he doesn't move away, when everything else around you seems to pause and he just stays there. It might be at the end of a date or during a quiet moment when the conversation slows down, and instead of wrapping things up or looking for a natural exit, he holds the moment open. He lingers, not because he's unsure, but because he doesn't want it to end. This kind of lingering isn't just about time, it's about energy. It's about a certain stillness that fills the space between you. You can feel it in the way he stands, a little too close when saying goodbye, in the way he walks you to your car or your door and then doesn't immediately turn around to leave. His body is giving you all the time in the world to respond, to signal whether the feeling is mutual. He might shift his weight, look at you for a few seconds longer, maybe smile, and then fall into a quiet pause. That pause is heavy with unspoken tension, not uncomfortable, but full of possibility. He's not rushing it because he's hoping something happens in that in-between space. Sometimes the most telling part of this moment is in what doesn't happen. He doesn't check his phone. He doesn't look away. He doesn't break the silence with a nervous joke. Instead, he waits, not passively, but with a kind of hopeful focus. He's emotionally invested in the moment, and it shows. You can see it in his body language. Maybe he steps just slightly closer, just enough for you to feel the nearness. He's not invading your space, but he's gently closing the gap, waiting for a signal, any sign that tells him it's okay to take that next step. This lingering also reveals a lot about his respect for you. A kiss isn't just about attraction, it's about timing and mutual energy. By staying in that moment without forcing anything, he's allowing room for both of you to feel it out together. He's not charging ahead, he's pausing, checking in without saying a word, and that kind of emotional sensitivity is what makes a kiss feel meaningful instead of impulsive. He's saying, I want this to happen, but only if you do too. Often, during this lingering moment, you'll notice other cues start to surface. His voice might get quieter, his tone more sincere. Maybe he compliments you again, not in a cheesy or rehearsed way, but in a way that feels genuinely reflective, like he's realizing just how much he enjoys being around you. He might say something simple like, "This was really nice," or "I'm glad we did this," and then go quiet again. He's not just making conversation, he's opening a window, offering you the chance to step through with him into something deeper. The silence between you during this moment is almost more important than the words. It's in that quiet space that emotions swell, where unspoken feelings rise to the surface. And if you find yourself locked in eye contact with him, both of you sensing that something is about to shift, that's usually the moment right before a kiss. It's quiet, almost sacred. It's less about what's being done and more about what's being felt. And he's lingering there not because he's waiting for you to make the move, but because he's giving the moment the space it needs to turn into something real. This kind of pause doesn't last forever. Eventually, something breaks it. Either one of you speaks, laughs, looks away, or leans in. But that lingering moment is the test. It's where the emotional weight gathers. It's where intention becomes visible. He's not in a rush to leave your presence, and he's not eager to distract from the closeness that's growing. He's staying, holding space, hoping you'll feel the same magnetic pull that he does. Because in that stillness, in that pause between goodbye and goodnight, lies the possibility of something more, a moment he wants to turn into a kiss. So if you've been wondering whether he wants to kiss you, pay less attention to the big, bold gestures and more to the quiet details. The way he looks at you, how his voice softens, how often he finds reasons to touch you, how present he becomes in your space, and most importantly, whether he lingers when the moment could easily end. These signs aren't just romantic, they're revealing. They show you that he's not only attracted to you, but also emotionally dialed in. When you start noticing these subtle cues stacking up, it's a strong signal that the thought of kissing you isn't just passing through his mind. It's sitting there, waiting for the right moment.